Multi-step equations. As equations become more complex, you should first simplify each side of the equation, so combine like terms, use the distributive property, things like that, and then use inverse operations to solve the equation. Remember, whatever you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other side. Here's an example. We start here. Now you can see that there are some like terms. 5x plus 7x is 12x. So these combine here. Then we have 12x. We want to get x by itself, so we have to subtract this plus 4. So we subtract 4 from both sides, so it cancels out on this side. 28 minus 4 is 24. Now we have 12x equals 24. We're going to have to undo that multiplication by dividing both sides by 12. 24 divided by 12 is 2, therefore x equals 2. Here's another example. So we're starting here. We have some like terms. We have 2r and negative 7r. So those combine to negative 5r. And then we're going to try to get r by itself. The first thing we're going to do is undo the addition. So we're going to subtract 19 from both sides. That gives us negative 20 equals negative 5r, because the 19s go away on this side. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 5 to undo that multiplication. When we do that, the negative signs all cancel out, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. Then we can go ahead and just flip the whole thing around so that it says r equals 4. Let's try some together. Okay, so we're going to do this first one. 12h minus 10h. Well, these are like terms, so we can combine them. 12 minus 10 is 2, so we have 2h plus 7 equals 25. All right, so now we have reverse operations to do. So first we're going to deal with this plus 7. We're going to subtract 7 so that it cancels out, but we have to do that to the other side as well. All right, so now we have 2h equals 25 minus 7 is 18. And then we're going to undo this multiplication by dividing. So therefore h equals 9. All right, so here we have some like terms. 17 plus 6 is 23. Okay, then we're going to undo this addition by subtracting 23 from both sides. And that gives us negative 9f equals 140 minus 23 is 117. Then we're going to divide both sides by negative 9. Now what is 9 into 117? Well, 9 goes into 11 once. 1 times 9 is 9. Remainder of 2. Bring down the 7. 3. Okay, so the answer is 13, which means f equals negative 13. All right, finally we have this one. Here are some like terms. So negative 17q plus 7q would be negative 10q minus 13 equals 27. All right, so we're going to add 13 to both sides. All right, so 7 plus 3 is 10. So 3, 4, 40. So we have negative 10q equals 40. Then we're going to undo that multiplication by dividing both sides by negative 10. And we get q equals negative 4. And there you go. All of the solutions. Always check to see that both sides of the equation are simplified before you begin solving the equation. When an equation is simplified, there should be at most one term for each variable and one constant term. Remember, the distributive property is A times B plus C equals A times B plus A times C. Here are some examples. 5 times 20 plus 6 is 5 times 20 plus 5 times 6. We have 9 times 30 minus 9 times 2. And remember, don't put two negative signs in there. Don't put a negative sign here and here, because then they would cancel out when they're not supposed to. Here we have 3 times 5 plus 3 times 2x. And finally, negative 2 times 4, 4x, sorry, minus negative 2 times 7. Make sure you keep track of your negative signs, because here, these negative signs will cancel out. So that's important. Don't add too many negative signs in here. Some equations may include parentheses with variables or numbers. Sometimes the distributive property might be helpful in isolating the variable. For example, you could use the distributive property as shown below as a first step in solving for x. So see how we have an x trapped in here, and there's one over here? We can free this x by just doing the distributive property. So 5x minus 5 times 6 minus 3x equals 8. So now we have that x is free to be combined with this one over here. So 5x minus 3x gives us 2x. Add 30 to both sides and then divide both sides by 2. As with most multi-step equations, with this example, we have different options to solve. Discuss. Compare these two reasonable approaches to solving this equation. So here, before you do the distributive property, you don't do that. You just divide both sides by 2. And look at that. 28 divided by 2 is 14. Now you've got a much simpler problem, right? So in this case, we didn't have to do the distributive property. Over here, you can do the distributive property, 2b minus 16, 2 times 8. But now you have more numbers, it takes more steps, right? So sometimes distributive property is not the way to go, like here. All right, so here we will want to do the distributive property because we have an r here and here. So we have to free this one. This one's very trapped right now. So we have 3r plus, all right, 4 times r is 4r minus 4 times 2 is 8 equals 13. Now that r is free, we can now combine it with this 3r. So we have 3r plus 4r is 7r minus 8 equals 13. Now we're going to undo this subtraction with addition. We're going to add 8 to both sides, and we get 7r equals 13 plus 8 is 21. Divide both sides by 7, and r equals 3. On the other hand, this one, we're better off not doing the distributive property because there's just this one w. So let's just go ahead and divide both sides by 3. That will cancel out the 3 here and here, and that gives us w minus 2 equals 3. Much simpler. Now we're going to add 2 to both sides, and we get w equals 5. So the approach that I took was approach number 2 over here, not distributing. Here's what it would have looked like if you did distribute, so 3w minus 6. It would have worked, but it just takes a little bit longer. Over here, we have an m here and here. So we're going to have to distribute this out so that we can free up this 2m. So we have 6m plus 2 times 2m is 4m plus 2 times 7 is 14. Okay, now we can combine like terms. We have 6m and 4m. That's 10m plus 14 equals 54. We are going to undo this addition with subtraction. Okay, so that gives us 10m, this goes away, equals 54 minus 14 is 40. Last step, divide both sides by 10 to undo this multiplication. The 10's cancel, and we get m equals 4. For this one, I'm not going to distribute. Since there's just that one d here, there's nothing else to combine it with. So I'm just going to divide both sides by 4 so that the 4 cancels out. Now what is 92 divided by 4? I'm not sure. Let's just do it by hand. 4 goes into 9 twice. We have 8, 1, bring down the 2, 3, 23. So we now have 2d plus 5 equals 23. We're going to undo this addition with subtraction. So now we have 2d, and that goes away, equals 23 minus 5 is 18. Next, we're going to divide both sides by 2 to undo this multiplication, and we get d equals 9. Like before, you could have distributed or you could have skipped distributing. Either way, you will get d equals 9 at the end.